This is a classic case that you could be all powerful. You don't know what you don't know. And what you don't know, mess up your plans. My name is Dorian. This is SEM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of Legion Quest with X-Men number 40. So our story starts off with Charles Xavier in a wheelchair, which normally that would be nothing new. But this is back in the past, so he's not paralyzed. And he's praising the man who constructed this wheelchair, which he feels like this is the best wheelchair he ever seen made. And the guy says, well, I have a thing with metal. So you know who this is. It's Magneto. Now, this is back when they first met each other. They only kind of known each other for a few weeks. Professor Xavier is a doctor of mental disorders, obviously. And Magneto is a volunteer orderly. Yes. He even referenced that, I need to go clean some bedpans. We all got to start somewhere. But no cap, one of the most important people in the hospital is an orderly, because who else is going to clean your bedpan? It's not you, because if you could, why the hell are you using bedpan in the first place? I got off track. Anyway, now do they know that they're both mutants? I think Magneto suspects Charles is a mutant, but he doesn't know for sure. I'm assuming Charles knows that Magneto's a mutant because Charles knows how to read minds. So, I mean, you would think he would read Magneto's mind and he's just being nice because he feels a kinship to him. I don't know. He's not acting like he knows, but this is Charles Xavier, so he probably knows. And Charles is actually leaving the hospital to go on a date with Legion's mom, Gabrielle Holler, which is extremely important to the storyline because you'll see in the end. Not in this book, but you'll see. That's extremely important. So while Charles leaves, Magneto goes to see his next patient, which is a John Doe in his Legion. And his hair isn't spiked up high as hell, which why isn't it? I don't know, but it's not. Like, I didn't even recognize him at first. And he gave himself amnesia when he went back in time. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know what you don't know. He didn't know that, I guess, going back in time was going to give himself amnesia. And how the hell can you complete your mission if you don't even know who the hell you are? So now we cut back to present time and you got Rogue and Archangel. Yes, this is Archangel. So that means Apocalypse got his hands on him, turned his wings metal and turned them blue. And they're looking for Storm's team. And particularly, he's looking for Betsy Psylocke because, you know, they just got a relationship going, so he needs to find his boo thing. So they're having issues because they're trying to do this in a sandstorm. Now, the rest of the X-Men team are there. They're pretty much got a little headquarters set up in like a tent. Cyclops is asking Professor Xavier about Legion. You know, like, what does he know about what's going on? Professor Xavier is like, I don't really know when it comes to my son. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Because you got to think about it. Legion has like probably over 100 different personalities in his head. So even for Professor Xavier to try to read his mind, it's got to be confusing. So I don't think he tries. Plus, he's not the greatest of fathers. So Archangel finds Jean in a sand dune and then brings her back to the little headquarters. So she's extremely dehydrated, extremely exhausted. They're giving her an IV, and then Beast is like, I guess it's okay for you to do like a little mental probe to try to wake her up. So that's what Professor Xavier does, and she wakes up screaming Legion. But they're asking her what happened, and she's like, Legion is no longer like fragmented, whole bunch of different personalities. He's just one person, and he's even more powerful now than he was when he was fragmented. And he tapped into this new power, and he took himself and the others. Professor Xavier's like, where? And Jean's like, in the past, Charles, somewhere to your past. So we go back to said past. And we see our X-Men team, and they have amnesia. I think the only reason why they're hanging out with each other is because they woke up next to each other. Like, Bobby's sitting there, he's like, I don't know anything. Like, what the hell is this? As he holds up his X-Men symbol. So then they walk off, and then Bobby turns himself into ice, and he's like, what are we? Now, Bishop doesn't know much, but he knows enough to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this in public. And Psylocke knows that she can read minds, but they're back in the past, probably before they was even born. So whatever mind she reads, it's not helping. So now there's an interlude, and we go back to the mansion, and we got Sabretooth, and he's in a cage, and he's trying to figure out a way to free himself. You see, there was a point in time where Professor Xavier thought that he can help Sabretooth like he helped Wolverine. And Wolverine is steady trying to tell him that they ain't the same. Like, Wolverine killed because he had to. Sabretooth kills because he likes to. So anyway, Wolverine's there to make sure that Sabretooth doesn't do anything crazy. And yes, he has bone claws because fatal attractions already happened. If you're an X-Men 97 fan and you want to know what happened in the comic book, the link to the playlist will be in the description. And they're actually referring to you to read Wolverine number 90, which I happened to already cover on this channel a long time ago, because Wolverine number 90 to me was the best Sabretooth Wolverine fight I've ever read. So link to that video will also be in the description. So now we cut back to Haifa, which, if you guys don't know, is a city in Israel. I know when I read this comic, I didn't know what the hell Haifa was. I was like, I thought it might have been a made up place or something. So you got Magneto. He's watching Charles and Gabrielle Holler leave, and he's kind of jealous. I don't think he's really jealous. I think he's lonely, because he ain't been with anybody since his wife left him. His wife left him because, he had to do what he had to do once his daughter died. So he starts to help Legion. And even though Legion has amnesia, he still has his powers. And he's like, I can sense like all this anger inside you. And he starts using his powers. So he looks into Magneto's past and he sees the Nazi soldiers. He sees the concentration camps. He sees how his daughter was killed by these soldiers and how Magneto took them all out. So Magneto just starts yelling, stop it. What in the name of God are you? What are you doing to me? Who are you to remind me of all that I've lost? Animal. And obviously he starts using his magnetism. Anything that's metal goes flying around the room, and then he goes running out. And Legion's like, I'm sorry, Magnus. I didn't know all what you suffered. And he's like, oh Lord, what's wrong with me? Why am I here? So his amnesia is still intact. So Magneto is trying to find Charles because he don't know what the hell just happened. So you got Charles, he's on his date. He bumps into Betsy. They kind of read each other's minds. Charles kind of doesn't know what the hell's going on because obviously Betsy has amnesia, and Betsy doesn't know what the hell's going on with Charles because she has amnesia. So technically in her mind, she doesn't know Charles. So Magneto finds Charles and he's like, that John Doe, there's something wrong with him. You need to come back and see. And Charles like, what? He's like, I don't know. You need to come see for yourself. So they get back to the hospital. Charles goes, good heavens. And Magneto's like, I'm afraid you might be asking for assistance in the wrong direction because Legion is on fire. And through the fire, you can see images of the X-Men. And in the narration bubble, it says, for once, Charles has no answers. So now we cut back to present time. You have Gabrielle, and she's asking Charles, who'd you call? And am I going to like the answer? And then we see that it's Cable. Cable's like, hi, Pops. Talking to Cyclops. And he's like, you called Chuck and I came. I can't explain why me and Domino are here. So Charles is asking Cable, who is a resident time traveler, if they can borrow his ship to go back in time to rescue the X-Men and stop Legion. And Cable's like, I really wish I could help you, but unfortunately, my time machine is at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Again, if you want to know what happened, it happened in Fatal Attractions, which the link to the playlist is already in the description. But then the Israel soldiers draw down on Cable because technically he's a wanted man because they think he's Strife. Now, if you don't know who Strife is, he is a clone of Cable, except for Strife doesn't have a techno-organic virus in him. So he has full access to his mental abilities. So he is extremely powerful, extremely. He is definitely Omega level. And he's also a really bad guy that did really bad things, and the Israel soldiers don't know the difference. But that gets put on the back burner because all of a sudden, Lilandria, which is Charles' boo thing, she's the Empress of the Shi'ar Empire, all of a sudden projects herself and tells Charles, hey, here's some bad things that are about to happen in your past that we need to help fix. And Charles is like, well, we're trying to deal with it, but why are you showing up and why is this such a big concern? And then we see on the last page, because all of the Watchers came, well, maybe not all the Watchers, but a bunch of Watchers came to Lilandria. Was like, hey, there's some bullshit about to go down and we need to stop it. Now, they don't really use them now, but back in the day, when the Watchers showed up, you know it was about to go down. Like, if the Watchers were scared, yeah, whatever's about to happen, it's about to be catastrophic.